Hi, I'm Rick Stivers with Young Martin's Reels, and tonight we're going to be doing a full servicing on this and disassembly inspection and reassembling on this Johnson Sabra 130B. The Johnson 130 was introduced in 1960, and in 1973 they came out with the model 130B, and it was produced until 1979. So this particular reel was made somewhere between there. This reel is different from the Johnson Century and Citations because the spools on those are fixed, but on this particular reel, on the 130, the spool actually oscillates up and down as you rotate it. And well, this spool, this rotor's loose. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and take that off. If you look, see how the spool oscillates up and down to give you a level wind. I guess you can't see that. I can. There you go. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this apart, service it, and get it all back together. I'm doing this particular reel for my sister Cheryl, and I'll dedicate this one to her. She really likes the Johnson reels, and she wants me to do this one because I found three of these in a parts bin at my dad's when we went through his stuff, and I gave her one of them, and I brought the parts of the other ones home to see if we can make at least one good reel out of it, and now she's going to be using it to create her own. So let's go ahead, take the handle off. It's a 1/4 inch nut on the end. Take that off, and then unscrew the drag. Okay, with the drag nut removed, you've got a drag washer, which is a bent metal. We're going to clean that up later. All right, and then the next thing you're going to want to do is unscrew the nut that's holding on the handle. This reel's got a lot of oil on it, but I don't know how much grease it's got. I will say that this is a much more difficult reel to take apart than the Johnson Centuries and Citations. There's a lot more to this reel. Okay, now we're going to pull the back cover off. That brings us to this point. And we're going to see if we can't get the spool to come off. There we go. I got it off. Okay, now this reel is a lot different from the side. Let's get this spool out of the way because it's got line shooting every way. All right, one of the big differences between this reel and the Centuries and Citations is once you get them to this point, you can simply pull the shaft out. You can't do that on this reel. On this reel, what you have to do is you have to disassemble this central shaft. Okay, so you start off, put the shaft down against the table, hold the spring down, and now you've got a C-clip right here. Rotate it around until you find the opening on the C-clip, and take your screwdriver and push it over, but you got to be very careful that you don't lose it because it's a little bitty C-clip. Put the C-clip out, take the spring off. There's your C-clip. That's how tiny it is. Okay. Now with that out, the shaft comes out through the front and the spool comes off. Now we can remove what is referred to as the automatic transmission for this gear. Okay, and what drives it all. All right, all of this slides out. Now, all of it doesn't slide out because you've got the reverse dog and the spool oscillating yoke that stays in place. Okay, so hold those in place and let's slide the rest of this out. Okay, we're going to keep all that together and set it over here to the side. Now we can go ahead and slide out the reverse dog, the anti-reverse dog, and the oscillating yoke slides out the front. That's got all of those removed. Next, you've got all of this. Okay? Okay. The next part that's going to come out is your cam follower assembly. And it's got to be very careful because it has a tiny, and I mean tiny, little spring. And here it is right here. Okay, see it right there? That's the spring. And we're going to clean it up so you can see it better. But this lever fits on here just like that. And then the spring holds that in tension up inside here. Okay? And this piece comes off. This piece comes off. Now you've got a washer inside here. Don't lose it. This is your drag washer for this. There you go. There's your drag washer. And here's your other drag washer. This is your inside. This is your outside. Okay? Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to scrub up all of these parts. When we get done scrubbing them all, we're going to come back and reassemble everything clean. Okay, we're going to pause for a moment and talk about this pinion gear. Even after I've scrubbed the pinion gear with a toothbrush and taken a screwdriver to it, there are still chunks of dried up grease in it. You've got to make sure that you get all of those chunks of grease out of there or the reel is going to bind. Now, the first thing I do is I reinstall the rotor yoke. It goes in like this, okay? But now it's not going to stay. If you just put it like that and try to stick it on there, it's just going to fall out. So what we're going to do, we're going to take and butter it up nicely with some fishing reel grease. And I do say fishing reel grease because You don't want to use anything else. Household greases, automotive greases are not good substitutes for fishing reel greases. Fishing reel grease has additives and things that you really need in your fishing reel. Alright, now with it greased up, slide it into place, slip it over that collar right there, and with the grease on there, it's going to hold itself in place. Alright, let's see if we can do this better. Alright, we're going to go ahead and reinstall the yoke. Before we do that, let me show you. Right here on the yoke, there's a hole. See that hole? This tab on this is going to fit inside that hole. Like that. Okay? But you can't slide this in until you put the yoke in first. So slide the yoke in. Make sure it fits over top of the center post. Put it in here. Push it all the way up. Now take your tab, put your tab into the slot and slide it down, and that'll hold it all in place. Make sure that your shift dog here is facing this way. One of these I had it like that when I put it all together, and I had to come back and take it all apart because the shift dog wouldn't work. Okay, that goes like that. Now once you've got that in that configuration, just set it off to the side and leave it for a minute. Now we're going to build up this side. Okay, the next thing we're going to start on is the crankshaft assembly. You're going to take your crankshaft and we're going to build it up. First thing that goes on it, or inside it, is the outside or inside drag washer and the drag washer screw. Okay, put your drag washer screw in, set it in place. It's got a keyway on here. Add some grease because it's going to help it all stay in place. Then you take your gear, this is your main gear, slide it over top of it so that that's going to fit inside there like that. Now this is a very loose fit. See how it wobbles around? Don't worry about that because it's all going to be centered when everything goes the rest of the way together. Okay, next we'll go ahead, grease up the other side of the gear. Now normally I say use grease sparingly on a reel, but on this reel it really helps to hold it together if you kind of add a fair amount to it. Alright. Okay, next we're going to use our axle shaft. Go ahead and grease the axle shaft. And we are going to slide on the oscillating gear. Okay, when we go to do that, you got this little bitty spring. Spring sits into this notch right here, like this. And then your arm goes on here, like so. That way the spring holds out on that, applying tension to push out on it. Okay, with that in position now, it all slides onto this assembly, like so. Slide it down, keep it all together, and then rotate it around until it drops into place like that. Okay? If it's sticking, if you've got parts that aren't meshed all the way together, you don't have it all the way in yet. Okay? Now, one more glob grease. Here we go. And then we're going to slide all of this into here, like so. And then rotate it around until it meshes in. And you'll feel when it drops into place, everything fits in nicely. With that in place, hold tension against it here. Hold it together and then slide it in over here. You know what? Let's go ahead and add some grease right here. And then slide it in. And then rotate it around until you feel it all drop into place. And it's not dropped into place yet. There we go. Once it drops into place, when you rotate it, the parts will oscillate like that. Okay? There we go. See how all the parts oscillate together? And when you try to reverse it around, the anti-reverse dog here catches it and keeps it from being able to reverse. Okay? When you've done that, what I'm going to tell you to do is go ahead and install your handle with the nut, because what that will do, it will hold all of this together so that it's not falling apart while you're trying to reinstall your main axle shaft. Okay, all that's held in place. Make sure your drag nut is all the way down. Okay, there. See how that fits all the way down? If it's sticking up, that's not in there right. It has to go all the way down like that. Okay, now with that in place, and our, tell you what, let's go ahead and do. Just to stop all this from happening. What was happening is the drag screw had popped up and was keeping the shaft from being able to go in. So let's go ahead at this point and reinstall the nut that holds the drag screw. What you're going to need is this tension spring right here. It's the bent washer shape. Slide it in, curved side facing up, like this. Okay, and let's get the grease out of this, because we're going to want to put nice fresh grease in. Okay, put some grease in, and let's tighten this guy back down. Okay, this is our drag nut. Now that can't pop back out when we go to install the axle. Okay, so let's put this axle shaft back in. There we go. Now let's put the spring on. Like that. And with that in position, we can now take our C-clip, and I'm trying to do this where you can see it, but I also have to be able to see it myself. Okay, slide the spring down, take the C-clip. At this point, it's a good idea to go ahead and rotate the shaft around to where you've got the rounded side facing you. You don't want to try to put the C-clip in on the flat. Okay, put the clip in place, snap it in place. Oh. All right, let's try this again. It works much better if when you go to put this in, you line it up and put your gear back on. All right. And I'm going to leave that in the video because I think everybody needs to know that everybody makes mistakes. Okay, making mistakes is half of what the world's about. Okay, everybody's going to make mistakes. Don't hide your mistakes. Go ahead and let the world know about them. Now with the gear in place, now slide, I'll go ahead and rotate it around again like I said before, so that this shaft is, the round part is on the back. Slide your keep tight control on your spring. Okay, slide your spring down. What happened there is my fingernail caught in the groove that the C-clip is in, or goes in, and it popped. And when that happened, it flipped my fingernail past the spring and the spring shot off. Okay, so don't let that happen to you. Okay, fit your C-clip into the groove. Snap it into place. Now let your spring go. All right. All of what they call the automatic transmission is reinstalled. All right. Now, one thing we didn't do was put grease on the gear teeth. And you don't want tons and tons and tons of grease in this reel. We used quite a bit to get those plates all to hold in place, but aside from that, you really don't want to over lubricate your... Alright, that should be sufficient. That's enough grease. And it's a nice smooth operating reel. Alright, with that done, we're going to pause for a second while I take all the... Well, you know what? We're going to leave this line, most of this line on. We're going to go ahead and clip it. I don't like this line. I think it's too heavy for the reel, but we're going to use it to test our drag in just a moment. Alright, there's two sides to this spool. You've got a side that has this pin right here, or hole, and then you've got this other side that has this one's pretty corroded. You know what? I've got a good one of these. Hang on just a second. Okay, I'm back. If you look at this spool, it's got a lot of corrosion and rust. We're going to leave that off, and we are going to put this one on. Okay. Now we've got that reel set up. Put this spool on. Okay, it's got an off, and that off is for actually removing the spool. Once you got it on, it screws on. Alright, so there's an off. That takes it off. Put it on. Turn it back clockwise. That tightens it down. Okay. See if we can get some excess line here that we can clip off. Okay. With that done, we're going to reinstall our rotor. Let's go ahead and add a little grease to that. And just a little bit of reel oil to the pivot. And let's put this on. Okay, line it up. Let's tighten the knob down. Okay. Okay, it's no longer wobbling like it did earlier. Okay, let's put the back cover on it. It just slides up, slides on. Okay, I feed the line through the cap. Like so. Now I have found that these 130 caps are real easy to cross thread going on. Okay, once it's good, all right. Okay, now the way I've been told this reel is supposed to operate, let's go ahead and loosen up the drag some. There we go. Tighten it down just a little bit. Okay. The way I've been told that this reel operates, it's in a regular drag drive. Okay, that's good. I don't see any automatic transmission to it, but does have a nice drag. Okay. Needs to be re-spooled with some good line now. And last but not least, don't forget to put your drag cap screw back on. This is by far my least favorite between the Citation Century and this Sabra 130. But Cheryl, I told you that I would redo it, show you how to do it. Here it is, the Johnson Sabra 130B, and thank you. If you like this video, please subscribe, or want to see more like that, please hit the like button. If you didn't like it, hey, if you think I'm a complete moron, let me know. Actually, I don't have this cap on all the way. Let me fix that. No, that's fine. And let's screw the cap on like it should be. Okay, here we are. I hope you enjoyed the video.